Hello, welcome to another episode of Reil Reviews. I'm Bryant.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Ryan.
And we have played Merchants of the Dark Road, a take and deliver game for 1 to 4 players, published by Elf Creek Games. So let's take a real good look at it. Ryan, as today's celebrity guest, when would you see this game hitting the table?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun today playing this game. I was able to learn it and play it in, a fairly short sitting. So I think it's a really good game for, especially if you're going to have like a mixed group, maybe. You have some people who kind of enjoy the heavier strategy games. You might enjoy some people who enjoy the thematic thing, which I'm sure we'll get into with some of the other questions there. And But you kind of have maybe a mixed table, and you want to get a game that everybody can kind of enjoy in that, 1.5 to 2 hour range. I would definitely be taking it out fairly frequently, I think, to kind of experience it. Every game's a little bit different too, with just what comes up when and what people decide to do, how the wagons move, so I could see myself playing this fairly frequently. So
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think for me it almost feels, and I'll get into the theme later, but I think because of the feeling of the game, I would almost I'd be putting this in my Halloween lineup. So if you're looking at like an October game series, you have your Betrayal at House on the Hill and Zombies and those sorts of games. I feel like the tone of this game would be a nice in that lineup for me.
Really?
Yeah, I'd probably put this as a seasonal game for like a big night leading up to Halloween or something.
Cool. All right. Well, Brad's wrong this time. It's not a horror game. Or
it's not a horror game, but
there is a dark road.
Yeah.
Let's be fair, right?
Yeah.
But no, I think this game it's a good game. It can be played with mixed players. I do feel like the game does open itself up to a little bit of AP, some analysis paralysis, because there is a lot going on, and you're trying to pick and make sure that like you have the right goods, you're buying goods at the right time, you're buying people at the right time, you're getting commissions at the right time, so that you can make sure that you go traveling, right? And there's a lot of decisions, like small decisions that get made, where none of them on their own are complicated, but they do weave into a very, very complex matrix, is what I find. Right? So I would probably stick to a little bit more seasoned game players with this one. It does take like a half hour per player, or like sometimes even more, is what I've found playing it. But it's not a difficult game to play, as in the actions themselves are relatively simple and it's fairly well laid out. But that kind of woven matrix, that's what I'm going to call it this time, does get a little bit much for some players. So yeah, for me, medium to maybe just slightly over medium weight game for me. But
yeah, and I think a good way to deal with analysis paralysis is you either play with people who really know what they're doing, or play with people who don't think about what they're doing.
Yep.
And so either way, if that's your play group fits either of those descriptions, it's probably good.
Or on Halloween, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay,
all right, so Ryan.
Yeah.
How did you feel about how thematic or immersive did you find this game?
Yeah. So besides calling the sticks wands for pretty much the whole game, I thought it was a really cool adventure. Even from the start, when you're first getting your first kind of side character there, your steed. Woolsworth. I felt an affinity for him. I'm sure there's lots of other ones that are pretty cool too. But yeah, right from the start, you just feel like, hey, I've got my wagon, I've got my space, I've got my, lanterns to help me out maybe, I've got my other stuff to help me out, but like, sure, you're moving in a little bit of a circle, but you go on some side journeys, maybe that's one thing, is you're just kind of wheeling around, but that's the only thing that really, for me, distracted anything. Otherwise, it felt really cool. You get the adventures, you get your deeds, you really feel like a traveling salesman going around.
It does kind of have to,
stuff.
It has to be there so that you're kind of forced into this action selection mechanism that is a little bit different, right?
Kind of woven with the, mechanics there. But yeah, overall, I mean, maybe it was the, fancy 10s that we finally collected by the end that made it really worth it. But
metal coins.
All
different sizes.
It definitely felt like a game where you're kind of, you're on an adventure, which is really cool for me. Cool. So
and so this is where I get to defend my previous argument.
Okay, let's hear the horror stories.
While I agree this is not a horror game
in the winter.
It's not a horror game, but it's got a tone where and again, I immerse myself in games maybe more than average. I kind of create in my head a scenario that I'm in.
Yeah.
But because of the artwork and the theme, it has a dark feeling to it. Like you could kind of see this being like muddy, Transylvanian roads that you're trading on, and when you're doing the dark road cards, you're running into like bandits and old wizard towers, and you're going to these ruins of Yin. So even though it's not a horror, I would say it's still, the tone I think is appropriate for.
Yeah, and it is meant to kind of showcase that hard journey that these merchants have to go on. But as far as like theme immersion, I think this game is pretty good with immersing this theme into the game. Like, you look at the market has dice for the things, right? And you think, well, that's kind of weird, but it's also kind of showing you that this market doesn't have all of the goods available all the time, right? And that's how the mechanic is actually woven with that theme of saying, like, oh yeah, sorry, we just don't have any books right now. We don't have any potions right now, right? And the prices are changing all through the game, right? You're hiring adventurers, but you can only take so many adventurers with you because you only have so much space on your card. You can only take so many goods all the time. When you pick up companions, they travel along with you and they can give you little bonuses, kind of thing. Like, the themes all through this thing, I would say, like, one of the things that has the least theme in it is maybe the commissions for me, but that's really like, this is what
that town ordered.
The queen is telling you, you need to bring this to here, but really that's just like match the shape to the thing, right? But
fair, yeah.
As far as like the artwork is great. They have little storylines for every dark road or shortcut that you take, which is kind of cool. Even the dice that you're using are like the night stars kind of thing. That's the pips that they used on the dice. So I think they did a good job baking a theme into this game. They've made their own little universe for it with all these different outland places too. So I like it. I think it's pretty thematic for me.
Yeah, perfect.
And I will just say too, like, as a first-time player, the first couple times I was venturing out on the dark road, like, I was scared of what we might find.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we got a little lucky. I think I didn't find anything too scary, but definitely considered taking the shortcut. Which they're just cards, but like they really, made my heart beat a little bit.
Maybe I should
you're really going out there. Yeah.
I want to throw this out there too. We did feed several passengers to a monster.
That is true. Yeah.
So we had there's a slight horror element in our game.
Yeah, Cosimo got pretty well fed here. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, so Ryan, how did you feel about the aesthetics and the components of this game? What's the component quality?
Yeah, well, the component quality almost like wove into the theme, right? It made it really that much better, right? Like, the metal coins and the dice, like you mentioned, even the wagons are like pretty cool. But
the nice wooden cutout meeples, if you will.
Yeah, and like, I don't know. Some games you immediately like maybe are taken out, or like you notice when something's off. You know what I mean? But with this game, right from when I was learning the rules to playing it through, there was no real aspects that relating to the art or the components that like took you out of like, this is what you're doing, and for me that just keeps it nice and smooth. So even though some of the components weren't like they're just cards or they're just cardboard cutouts, they really feel really connected and just work together really well. So yeah,
I would say this is pretty top tier for me in terms of the components, like these little the lanterns and the horseshoes and everything. Now, is this what I didn't know? Is this a Kickstarter special, or is this like how the game would buy in the store?
That's a good question. I got this one from Kickstarter.
Okay.
Whenever I do Kickstarters, I always get the deluxe edition. Mm-hmm. So this could be the deluxified version. I'm not sure if they've got a retail version or not. I know Elf Creek Games has done other publications like Atlantis Rising, which also has some very nice components in it. So it could just be that that's their standard. It could just be that they are only doing Kickstarter runs of these games, and so they can do a better version of it. I'd have to double check to see.
So your experience may vary, but with this set we're playing with here, I would say this is top tier for the components.
Yeah.
We were talking about the wooden cutout carriages, but even then, they're all unique, right? They're not even the same mold. They're not even the same shape. So
they're all different shapes.
They're all different shapes. Same with these cardboard representations of the carriages we're playing in front of.
And that's actually a good point, if I can. The cardboard cutout that we're using as the basis for our game, right? This is your player board. It does actually like somewhat match the carriage that you have been given, right? So like, I think I'm holding this the other way, but this carriage is the red carriage. It's got a little bit of red highlight to it, and it's the same shape, right? If you looked at Bryant's carriage, his actually has a bit of a U to it on his player board.
Right? Yeah, a little
I can hold that up for you. Bling.
Bling bling.
Yeah. So I thought that's kind of a nice
token.
That's kind of a nice little touch as well. That like the actual shape on the board kind of matches your board.
Well, and it makes it shows a great attention and care to details. Whoever's making this cares about what they're making.
Yeah, no, I love the component quality of this game. When I picked it up, I know I would go like all in on a game like this. That's just my style. But I'm pretty sure like these dice would be the same in any version. They're pretty good. These dice would be the same, right? These cardboard cutouts would be the same Kickstarter or like whatever edition. The only thing that you might not get with a retail version would be something like these lanterns, which are really nice, like I think resin lanterns and that. The metal dice, which, I mean, these metal dice are just amazing.
Coins.
Coins, but yeah.
Or sorry, coins, yeah. These are probably, like, some of my favorite components ever.
Yeah.
Board games.
Any game that has metal
they've
coins.
Got not just the numbers.
Well, even the pictures, like they got the beehive.
Yeah. They're really well detailed. 10 out of 10 would play with metal coins every time.
Yeah, wow, the queen on the back.
All right, so Ryan, are there any mechanics or rules of this game that stood out to you?
That stood out, well, if I'm using the right word, rondel. That bad boy definitely stood out. I mean,
the magnet?
Yeah.
We should have mentioned this during components. Magnet, yeah, that's just pretty slick.
Yeah, it's just a magnet-based wheel. So
better than the clunky, like the wheel or the Game of Life.
Game of Life.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the market,
market
rotating
wheel,
thing, market wheel, like it felt like it was a little mini economy going on, right? Sometimes
yeah.
you wanted the armor, and sometimes you didn't want the armor because it was worth 1, or it was worth 5, or it was worth 3. Like it was definitely, or it was out of stock, or there was too much. You know, like that was just kind of like Matt said earlier, the web, that element to it in conjunction with the other components really like made the game that much not just trickier but also unpredictable at times, right? Because you weren't sure if somebody was going to suddenly make armor a hot commodity, right? Or vice versa. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, the adventure cards too were just, I mean, that's a standard kind of mechanic that you've seen in a lot of games, right? Like
draw a card,
or you flip to a book and you read a story and you do something, you know. But having to decide, you know, are you going to take the safe route or the, you know, the dark road, and based on lanterns and other stuff, you know, like there was I don't know, it just felt similar or like familiar but yet distinct. Maybe it was the drafting component in conjunction with the card that made it feel unique, you know. But,
because when you do the travel, right, if you've taken the dark road, then you get to pick first, so you want to roll all the dice and then you get the best dice out of it. But if you take the shortcut, then everybody who came with you gets to go first, and that's kind of unique.
But you get double the rewards.
They get more rewards.
Yeah, but you get more rewards for taking the shortcut. So yeah, there's always these like pluses and minuses, these swings and roundabouts to it, right?
Yeah, definitely. But overall, those are kind of two.
I think for me, the mechanic that I don't know why it stands on those. It's very simple and probably underwhelming, but I really, really like the Tetris. How they did the carriage.
Right?
I think the carriage in general is just how like all the pieces fit in, but especially how you have to fit all your pieces, all your luggage and cargo into this little Tetris-y square. I don't know. Really like that.
I got three. Three mechanics that I want to point out.
Okay, you go ahead.
If I can remember them now. Oh god. Okay, so one of my mechanics is the dice mechanic. Actually, is the action the action selection of this, unique, right? Yeah. So you start with dice on your board, right? And this is how much you can move, but you've got to push a dice into it, and that is going to choose your action, but also choose how much you can move, which is also choosing where you're going to end up, which is choosing what you're going to be able to do. So you might want to sell to somebody here, but in order to get my cart back there, I have to move 0, 1, or like 5 spaces. So now I have to choose which dice I'm going to use to move, but that might screw up my action because I also really want to rotate this wheel at the same time. And so this little like mini game that you play at the start of your turn becomes so important sometimes, especially when you start looking at the fact that like, if I can get all 3 of my dice to match, now I can separate so that I have different movements again, right? And I ended up doing that twice in our gameplay, and I think it really helped me.
Yeah, to reset, eh?
But yeah, like I love this mechanic. This little mini game in itself is really cool. The other mechanic I wanted to point out was the score track, because through the entire game we're gaining prestige, but at the end of the game you have to buy your prestige, and that's the way I normally equate it to. Is like at the very end, I have so much prestige, but it really depends on like how much money I have as well, because you're going to start at whatever is lowest between your money and your prestige for your actual point score at the end. So somebody can run away with prestige, and you're kind of watching them do it, and you're just like, yeah, but how much money do they have? Because you can have 50 prestige and 20 money, and you only have 20 points.
Which is something that really we were thinking about during the game.
Yeah, which is like it's a huge aspect of the game where you have to balance the two off of each other.
With money being secret, you can keep track for a little bit, but pretty quickly you lose. You know, you might know somebody's rich or poor, but like
Yeah, but
if they're anywhere in the gray zone,
know,
you're not
right?
really sure. So
and we ended up being so incredibly close. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think the other one that I wanted to point out was the illuminated dice, which is kind of cool. It's really hard to get these illuminated dice, but they can be really powerful if you use them at the right time, because this turns your one action per turn into 3 actions on a turn, which I find can be a little bit overlooked by newer players, but this can actually be really strong when you can actually get those illuminated dice. But yeah. There you go.
True.
Those are my 3.
True.
Yeah. Those are my 3 mechanics that I wanted to point out. I think the mechanics in this game are great. It's why I bought this game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, some games feel like they just kind of smorgasbord a bunch of different mechanics, but these ones all
they all fit. Well, I think that's the big. Yeah, well, that leads us into our next question. So our next question is any kind of other thoughts you have on the game. I think. This kind of
I guess that's one. Just to kind of continue, like
the integration.
It felt
of
like
mechanics
it was all
really
familiar, and like sure there was some unique mechanics, but like nothing felt overly complicated, but yet everything felt important. There wasn't like some games you can just completely ignore this track or that track and not sweat it, and you can still do well in the game. But with this game, it felt like you really had to. Sure, you could excel on something, but you really had to balance out what you were doing and think about it. Like, I wanted to take this action all the time to get my upgraded item, but I needed to move this amount or this amount, so I had to do other stuff and kind of, you kind of had to balance it out. So that was.
If you just go for commissions, then you'll get a bunch of prestige, but you have no money at the end of the game, and it wasn't worth it, right? So it's a game where you kind of have 2 tracks, one of them's hidden, and you have to balance the 2 tracks, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my only other final thought is, Phoenix original.
Yeah, he was collecting Phoenixes.
Phoenix for the win.
Yeah. Brian almost took one, but managed to get all 3 of them, so it worked.
Even the companions themselves, like it's another little thing that you just get that as a bonus for leading an expedition, right? And like my guy, my Rhymefrost, he wants me to not lead expeditions because I can basically follow and go anywhere.
Yeah, and that actually leads into my point, because I was going to talk about the steeds, because I don't think we really talked about this game. Is a little bit, it's subtly asymmetrical.
Yep.
Like not into a massive degree, but you do start with different steeds that pull your wagon, and each one has a different ability. So mine gave me extra points for upgrading my wagon, and Matt's gave him he could just fly around and drop his passengers off wherever they wanted, and I have no idea what Ryan's was doing over there.
He was giving me these quartz.
Oh, he kept giving me. That's why you have so much quartz.
Yeah, I just had quartz all over the place.
I think I was actually sitting in a pretty decent spot, because my guy is like, well, if you join another player's caravan, you may visit any outlying town, so I can go anywhere whenever I join either of them, and they both get big bonuses if they lead the caravans, right? Because it's just he wants to gain companions so that he can use all of his quartz, and he wants to gain wagon upgrades, which you can only get from leading expeditions. So it's that really cool interactions of all the mechanics that really stands out.
Very well integrated,
joining was kind of cool, because even if it's not your turn, you could still, it didn't feel like there was too long of a game.
You're not just always sitting there waiting.
You're like, should I go or shouldn't I go, or should I get the stuff in case they go?
I would sometimes go on these, even if I didn't have anything to drop off, I'd go just for the adventure and being able to roll the dice.
You just get to roll the dice. Sometimes you get a piece of loot, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's worth it. Okay, so I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Random question. Did it feel like a 14 action turn?
14
action game, because that's all you get. You get 14 turns.
Yeah, I think when you first hear that at the beginning, it sounds like you're not going to be able to do very much in 14 turns.
Yeah.
But once you've played it, it's like you feel like you've done a lot.
Yeah, likewise. Like when you first said 14 actions, I was thinking back to like Agricola and like how every action matters, and you really gotta plan your stuff out. But honestly, it felt like it was a lot more than 14. If you'd asked me if we played it and you'd asked me how many actions I had, I would have said like 30 or 40, because you're thinking about a lot of things.
Well, again, you're doing stuff off turn, like going on the adventure, so it feels like you're doing more.
Or even every action is multiple things.
Or especially using the illuminated dice and all that.
It's cool. Like it's a good little package is what I find. So I rate it highly.
Yeah.
I would say this has been a real great game, and I hope you had a real good time with this review. That was my outro.
Boom, boom.
I tried to pause after it. I'm using my name. I'm overusing my surname, probably.
It's fine. It's your shtick.
It's my shtick.
It's good to have one, I guess.
Yeah.